Hello everyone, it's Dr. Sam. I'd like to welcome you to my EyeClarity podcast. This is a show that offers cutting-edge information on how to improve your vision and overall wellness through holistic methods. I so appreciate you spending part of your day with me. If you have questions, you can send them to hello@drsamberne.com. Now, to the latest EyeClarity episode. Hey everybody, Facebook Live. Great to be here. How are you? Well, we've got about 30 minutes together, so if you've got questions, you can send them in the chat here. I'll look for the comments. Good to be back. I was off last week and had a good time doing some camping up in southern Colorado in the San Juan Mountains. And some of you might have seen some of my Instagram stories. Anyways, I'm back and I'm very excited to be here. Very grateful for the community and what we're offering. So welcome everybody, just hop on, and I've got a ton of questions here. I'll try to get to them as best I can. A couple of announcements. I'm going to be teaching a retreat, leading a retreat called the Vision Sanctuary, October. This is going to be the first part of October 7th to the 9th. And it's going to be 3 days of an immersion. And we're going to explore a lot of different topics. Everything from eye health to refractive error. We're going to explore your vestibular system, your brain. We're going to do some things with movement and sound and light therapy. I'm also going to be teaching a little mini class on aromatherapy, and of course I'll be sharing my nutritional protocol pearls that will not only help your eyesight but also help your overall health and wellness. So if you want to sign up, look for my website, drsamberne.com. Hopefully we will be putting it up. We're in the final stages, editing, so it should be up on Friday. And if you can't make it live, you'll be able to watch it for 60 days after the Sunday class, October 9th. So check that out. We'll also be doing a Labor Day sale for all my products. I want to make those available to you. I've got three new products I hope to be releasing by Labor Day. One is actually a Castor Oil Eye Drop. Castor Oil Eye Drop. This is going to be very exciting, and you'll be able to do that eye massage around the eyelids. So that's number one. Number two, I'm going to be releasing a special optic nerve formula to help your circulation. So if you've been diagnosed with glaucoma, or your family, people in your family have had glaucoma, this would be a great product to add to your repertoire. I'm also going to be releasing another product called Carnosine. This is a major antioxidant to help improve lens health. So I keep discovering and inventing and researching new things for you, and I'm really excited to do that. Obviously on my social media, I will be on TikTok Live this Friday at noon Mountain Time. If you have more questions or you're on TikTok, that would be great to connect with you. So if you hear in the background some buzzing right outside my door here, over here, we've got a couple of hummingbird feeders. So the hummingbirds are here, and they're going crazy because my wife just fed them. And so you might be hearing some pollinating in the background. That's going to be the hummingbirds. Okay, they're joining us tonight. All right, I'm going to jump into my first question. This is kind of out there, so fasten your seatbelts. This is a concerned daughter. She's got a mom who's going to be 80 in October, and she is suffering from hallucinations. Now, you would say, what does hallucinations have to do with our vision. But a couple of months ago, I released a podcast on this very topic. And this comes from the discovery from a Swiss philosopher. His name was Charles Bonnet, and it's called the Bonnet Syndrome. And believe it or not, he published an article way back in 1760, and he was talking about his grandfather who was suffering visual hallucinations, and he was diagnosed with cataracts. So we fast forward to 1967, and George de Moor, who was also a Swiss scientist, he actually labeled this condition Charles Bonnet. And so what is this actually? So, sometimes as we get older, we start having some structural changes in the eyes. You may know somebody who's been diagnosed with macular degeneration, and you notice that maybe as you look out in the peripheral vision, things look distorted or there's a curviness. If you use something like an Amsler grid, which is a small chart that has squares on it, and you looked at it with each eye, if you have macular degeneration, those squares can look very distorted. Some of them can go away and come back. Or if you've got a cataract forming, there's a cloudiness, and depending on the day, the cataract can be worse or better. Glaucoma, if you have a peripheral vision loss, you have dry eye syndrome. So in other words, every visual condition, it begins to affect your habitual way of seeing the world perceptually. And so in this Charles Bonnet syndrome, what was discovered is that actually people with eye diseases can develop these type of visual hallucinations. And it's kind of hard to explain because, in the regular eye care field, what the eye doctors are doing is they're diagnosing, and then they're, using their surgical procedures or pharmaceuticals, which is just fine. But it doesn't necessarily change the visual hallucinations or the perceptual changes. Now, I was lucky enough in my training to study a lot of different modalities, everything from somatic therapy, craniosacral therapy, also, in the somatic world, as we worked with the whole body and we worked with sound and color and light, I became comfortable with helping people with certain psychological and emotional aspects of how they related to their eyes and vision. So one of the things that can be done as a way to start to desensitize yourself from these visual hallucinations is to work with eye movements and eye stretching. And there's actually an exercise on my website called the animal eye chart. And you're patching one of your eyes and you're having this chart up to your face and you're tracing your eyes along the lines and you're stretching your eyes. And that's really good for circulation. So doing the eye movement exercise also helps move the lymph in the eye, which can sometimes clear up some of the congestion or the consolidation of, tissue like floaters or, even cataracts, that when you have a better functioning lymph system in the eye, it can sometimes flush things out. And then if you use MSM drops, that can also help you. I also have an exercise called the palm hum, which putting sound into the eye tissue is a way to relax the eyes, open up the circulation, and probably have a positive effect on your breathing and balancing your nervous system. Because in a hallucination, there's an emotional component, a psychological component, and there's a physical vision component. So the physical eye therapy that I use invites people to move more into what we call an open system of consciousness. And what this means is that as you get more comfortable with moving away from the status quo of how you used to see or how you think you should see, and you go into this open system, what happens is your nervous system begins to relax. A lot of times either the hallucinations go away or they're not dominating your awareness. And it's so funny because, in floaters, This happens a lot with people. It's not so much the floaters go away completely, but people stop fixating on the floaters as as the culprit, and emotionally they get much more relaxed and they start seeing, a lot of other things besides just being, attracted to the floaters, because that can be a form of visual hallucination. So in any case, visual hallucinations are real. There is a condition around it. I did a podcast on it. You could type in Charles Bonnet Syndrome, Dr. Berne, and you'll get my podcast, and you can watch it or listen to it. And it's fascinating on, how this evolved and developed. And there definitely are visual hallucinations that can occur when your eyes start changing. So I hope that's helpful. Thank you so much for the question. All right, I want to jump over to LinkedIn, and in this is a question about nitric oxide. And in a recent I think this was a blog that I wrote about, and it was on the benefits of this molecule called nitric oxide. So nitric oxide is produced naturally in your body, and what it does is it dilates the blood vessels. So it's increasing your circulation. And the name of the game as you get older, the eye has a very high concentration of blood vessels in it. When we start developing oxidative stress and inflammation, one of the counters to that is including or activating nitric oxide in your body as a molecule that can actually improve the circulation. And this comes from a science where investigative ophthalmology actually published an article on the relationship between this molecule, nitric oxide, and the regulation of fluid production in the eye, better known as glaucoma. And in the study, what they found is that people who either ate foods that had nitric oxide or they would do a supplement with it, that this actually could help reduce the blockage of the fluid in the eye, and it could slow down the progressive deterioration in the optic nerve. And as we know, in glaucoma, it is a silent disease, tends to run in families, so that, if you were accessing nitric oxide, that would actually help you open up the circulation. So one of my favorite foods, actually three of my favorite foods that stimulate and have the nitric oxide, activation would be arugula, celery, and beetroot. So in this blog, I talk about, the science behind nitric oxide, specifically with the eyes, but also it can help cardiovascular disease and, other vascular diseases. So it's something that should be on your radar for sure. And as I said at the top of the show, I've developed an optic nerve formula to improve the optic nerve circulation, and it has nitric oxide in it. And just finishing the final stages of labeling and getting it to our fulfillment people, getting it up on our web store, that might be an answer for you. If you're curious about nitric oxide, it certainly can help. All right, let's move on. This is from our friend Sangeetha. Good evening, welcome. Does putting 1 or 2 drops of fresh coconut water a couple of times a day help with cataract? I haven't seen that, so I can't really comment on coconut water into the eyes to help cataracts. I think that, what I have seen that helps cataracts is glutathione and vitamin C. Those are 2 essential ingredients. Third one might be N-acetylcysteine. That would be another one. You need to do high levels of antioxidants that can help dissolve the oxidative stress in the lens. And if you feel there's a sugar component, you might include what we call a substance being able to reduce the glycation process. So glycation is when the glucose molecule attaches to the protein molecule in the lens of the eye, and we call this a cortical cataract. It's like spokes around the lens. So it'd be good to know what kind of cataract you have. And then from that point, if it is more glucose generated, you would move more towards the glycation process of dissolving it. I don't really know about other people's products, so I'm going to defer from that. Since I don't use them, I can't really comment. I think that if you're looking for other products, I would just contact those manufacturers and ask them that question, because they're going to have more experience than I do. And then your question about progressive lenses. So the rule of thumb is that in any glasses prescription that you wear, this is really important what I'm going to say, is that you wear the prescription when you need to function at a high level and you need to see clearly. It's not going to deteriorate your eyes to wear the prescriptions when you need them. In fact, if you try to strain yourself through circumstances, it actually makes your eyes much worse. So you use the glasses when you need them, and then there are times during the day when the circumstances will say, okay, I don't need the lenses to see things quite as clearly, so I can go without them and I can explore my vision in the more blurry state. So check that out. I hope that's helpful. Yeah, somebody's asking about the blue blockers, and we'll certainly be doing another sale in the fall, so stay with us. All right, Audrey's asking about bad floaters. I don't think there are any floaters that are good floaters. I'm going to bring in a research study that was done to help floaters, which is from, this was a study that said that bromelain, which is from pineapples, had some positive effect in dissolving floaters. And I believe it's in one of my my blogs where I talk about the actual study. But you know, you could certainly try pineapple if you're not allergic to it and you like it as a way to dissolve floaters. That'd be one kind of new wrinkle that has just kind of come on the scene. Number two, I would relate floaters to poor lymphatic health, lymph. So the lymph system is stagnating, it's not moving, you know, we're all sitting way too much. And so there's an exercise on my website called long swings, where you're standing at shoulder width and you're swinging your arms from side to side very slowly. And you do that for a couple of minutes every day so that you're activating the eye movements, which is going to help your eye lymph and the movement of your body. So lymphatic health, and there are a lot of ways that you can get lymphatic health. You could jump on a rebounder. You could take a walk. You could go get some lymphatic drainage from a massage therapist. You could get craniosacral therapy. So in other words, how can you activate the part of your body that gets rid of toxicities? So the liver and the eyes are very related. So we would take a look at maybe doing a liver cleanse, and that's also then related to lymphatic health. And then finally, I think that, you know, you really need to boost the major antioxidants in your eyes. And I would just, the way I would say it is, eat the rainbow color of vegetables and maybe adding some either strawberries or blueberries. And if you eat the rainbow color, you're getting all the major antioxidants from vitamin A to lutein, zeaxanthin, and astaxanthin, and the potent antioxidants that your eyes need. And again, when you develop floaters, there's a drying out of the vitreous, or the vitreous is just losing its integrity and getting too big. Could go either way. So it enlarges or it shrinks. So hydrating the eyes with natural eye drops, you could do the Optic homeopathic eye drops, you could do my MSM 5% or the 15% MSM mist on the eyelids. So hydrating, oxygenating, increasing the vascular health, giving your eyes more nutrients, improving the lymphatic health, maybe adding bromelain to your diet. These would be things that I would use to see if you could reduce floaters. Okay, let's go to Jenny. She's asking about her daughter who has eye inflammation, blood vessels growing in the corneas, losing her sight. She's only 14. We can't figure out how to stop the blood vessels. We've got our lightning and thunder, so we've got a little storm going on here. There you go. Hopefully we won't lose power. We've been getting a lot of rain, that's for sure, for the desert Southwest, but we welcome the rain because it puts out all the fires. Anyway, back to the question. So this is a certainly a disturbing issue. I think that what you're talking about is when you have blood vessels growing into the cornea, we call that neovascularization, or it may be angiogenesis. And the reason why that could be happening is because the eyes are not getting enough nutrients and hydration. Again, I don't know all the details about it, but certainly I would start with hydrating the eyes with some homeopathic eye drops during the day. Maybe my 5% MSM drops, you're using them 3 to 4 times a day. And then the evening, you might consider doing a compress over the eyelids, and you could use an herbal type formula. So it could either be a chamomile tea, it could be a golden seal, or a go-to cola is another great one, or eye bright if you can get that. So doing the compresses in the evening, the eye drops during the day. I think you need to get a definitive diagnosis from your eye doctor. Have him or her take some pictures so that you're monitoring, this new blood vessel situation. But there's a starvation going on in the eyes. So adding, omega-3 fatty acids, adding a really good eye nutrient that includes astaxanthin, which is a great carotenoid. And, like in my eye vitamin, I have ginkgo and taurine and bilberry. Those help improve the circulation of the eyes. And then maybe my eye exercises. One that I would recommend would be the palm hum exercise. That's the one where you rub your hands together, you cup it over your eyes, and you do about 6 to 8 hums on the exhale. That will help improve the breathing cycle. That could be another reason. Is there any eye trauma or just birth trauma? So you could get some craniosacral therapy, get some acupuncture. Again, these are some generalities that could maybe slow down some of these new fragile blood vessels that are trying to give the cornea, which is the clear window of the eye. It's also called the avascular tissue of the front of the eye, meaning there's no blood vessels that should be running to the cornea, but the cornea needs a lot of hydration and oxygenation and nutrients. So there's probably some starvation going on there in the nutrients. You could check out a naturopath and get some baseline on gut health and dietary absorption. Obviously things like sugars and simple carbohydrates and processed foods, you need to kind of eliminate those so that you're going more into the natural food area. I can't tell you the number of patients over the years that I just say to them, change your diet, and their lens health gets better or their macular problems start to go away. So there's a real connection between diet and eyesight, and maybe that could be part of it. With inflammation, sometimes it's what we eat that creates this general inflammatory disease in the eyes and in the body. So we need to be able to, self-regulate how much inflammation there could be. All right, let's go to Dane, who's asking a question about migraines and auras, and does it damage the eye? Less about damaging the eye, no, but more about just creating an overall stress level that is going to keep your nervous system at a place where there's more cortisol in the body, which is that stress hormone, and it could reduce things like your dopamine and serotonin levels, which are the happy and feel good hormones for the brain. So, migraines and auras, you have to be a CSI detective here in figuring out, well, what is triggering the migraine? And there isn't a cookbook answer. If you can find a doctor that can maybe do some things in the area of nutritional analysis, food allergies, toxicities, and then maybe working with an osteopath or a craniosacral person, are there any structural things? Are the bones sitting properly? Are they moving in the head properly? Because if there's a restriction in the movement up here, and it's a subtle movement, this can lead to headaches and auras. And of course, there's the visual component. I don't know what you're doing with screen time. Are you using blue blocking filters? Is there an imbalance between your two eyes? Maybe you need to go to an eye doctor and see if there's a prescription of glasses that could, reduce the visual stress. These would be some of the things that we would start to look at. I do think that gut health and eye health are very connected. So, again, it's hard to diagnose over, this kind of a question, but certainly a naturopath or a functional medicine doctor could give you some ideas on what is possible in terms of reducing some of the migraines and the auras, but they can be debilitating. Also, if you have a tracking system inside yourself to go, oh, these are some of the things that trigger me. It could be intense sunlight. It could be the dark. It could be I've worked all day on the computer. It could be, I'm drinking Diet Coke, and if I stop drinking Diet Coke, maybe that's an issue. So you have to do your own self-awareness analysis on what is triggering, when it happens, where it happens, and sometimes, if you change some of the outer environmental circumstances, that could reduce some of the risk of those kinds of things. All right, I'm going to take one more question, and this is a serious question. This is from a patient of mine who has just been diagnosed with what we call macular bleed. So the macula is the center part of the retina where we see detail and color vision. The retina has one of the highest metabolic needs of the body, and the macula has is the highest metabolic need of the retina. So the macula is like the cornea. There are no blood vessels that run through the macula. It relies on its nutrient support indirectly. So if you start getting a macular hemorrhage, saying that, again, these new blood vessels are growing in an area that they shouldn't be, and these blood vessels are fragile, and this can lead to fluid buildup behind the eye. It looks a little bit like wet macular degeneration or cystoid macular edema. Macular fluid behind the macula creates a waviness in the clarity of your seeing. The first thing I think about is diabetes or out of control glucose levels. So, we talk about the systemic and the metabolic reasons why our eyes let us down. And when you start getting, blood vessels that are growing in areas that they shouldn't be, you need to look at things like diabetes, hypertension, circulatory issues. And, there is a very strong correlation between out of control glucose levels and eye problems because of the concentration of blood vessels that are in the eye. So you might again work with a functional medicine doctor or a naturopathic doctor. Consider possibly moving more in the direction of a ketogenic diet. That could be very helpful. In the moment, if it's a macular bleed and there, definitely some sight-threatening issues there, you may need to get some laser or some cryotherapy where they freeze that part of the retina where there's bleeding going on. Certainly, some natural supplements that can work well would be things like grapeseed extract, bilberry, ginkgo, taurine, obviously the carotenoids, lutein, zeaxanthin, and astaxanthin, and your vitamin A. All of those things can be helpful as a support to feed the retina so that it's not having to produce these fragile blood vessels. So keep in touch with me about it, but the first place to look would be your glucose levels. All right, everybody, that's our show for today. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned something from the EyeClarity podcast show today. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to subscribe on iTunes or Spotify and leave a review. See you here next time.